I'm so grateful to have you all here. This is stunningly overwhelming. And what we're here to do is a bit of an experiment.
The big challenge that we face in CX today is one around simplicity, as well as ensuring that everyone sort of moves in the right direction. So what we're hoping to have happen today is a couple of exercises that help people figure out how to make the experience simpler to understand as well as to solve for, and also unpick the complexity that emerges from organizations and businesses, but also to think about what does consistency look like when we show up for our customers. And so that's what we're really we're going to do today.
And 2.5 years ago, I walked into an organization that was very customer-centric. Customers at the center of everything that we do, Perrin. Why are you here? I get that a lot. Why are you here? I'm like, I don't know, it was in my calendar. We have the customer at the center of everything we do. I said, great, how do you do that? Well, we're thinking about them. I said, awesome. That is step one. Thinking about the customer is really, really important. How are you taking those thoughts and making them into something real? How are those thoughts influencing you? Hi, words. Influencing you in the decisions that you're making. How are your decisions lined up to someone else's? Right? This is sort of, for me, some of the core questions that we as CX professionals deal with all the time. Everyone wants to do their best for the customer. That is awesome. How everyone does their best for the customer, that gets a little grayer, a little shadier. What can we do to make sure that we start talking and thinking and working with the customer the same way as our colleague? How do we start talking and thinking about the customer in the same way as that team on the next set of desks over there? How do we start thinking and talking and working with our customers in a completely different channel from us? How do we start thinking and talking and working with our customers in a way that our customers recognize as being the right way to talk to them? It's a complex world out there. It's really complex. And from a customer's perspective, Spark's experience is not a single interaction. It is not that single interface with one of the most excellent people in our stores. It is not their interaction with one of those excellent people that they have on the phones that I swear are trying to get to you as quickly as they can. It is not a single interaction. It is rather a much more complex relationship. This is what our journeys look like in the real world, and I got to tell you, this is simplified. If I were really going to talk about what our experiences look like in the real world, it'd just be like a solid black line looking like that. Customers come into your organization, they bounce around, they don't work with you in a linear way. It's like drinking from a fire hose when you're trying to understand customer experiences. And so, customers enter at any point, bounce around, no journey or interaction is standalone. That interaction that they have with our retail staff, our customer experience agents, our customer success agents, people around the world in our area, they're all different. So how do we get some sort of consistency in the way that we respond to customers and work with customers and deliver to customers? Because our organizations are as complex as our customers are. How do we simplify? How do we show up? And how do we make sure that we're doing it in a similar enough way that we're not making it harder? So at Spark, we created what we call a relationship model. It's how we make decisions. Our journeys are what line up those decisions to the rest of the business. If your business aligns up, and I mean by lining up their systems, their process, their data, the way of working, our channels, to the same journeys, then it simplifies the decision-making that you have to make in your organization. It simplifies how quickly you can deliver out to customers because you're all talking about the same thing. It simplifies how you show up to customers and talk to them as a group as opposed to as individuals. Journeys line everything up, and that's why they are so fundamentally important. Journeys line up the way that we can actually deliver faster to customers, and our framework helps us deliver better. Because our framework asks us to have these conversations. They ask us to get all of these people into the same room and have the conversation about how do we solve this problem best? What's the best way we can solve this problem? How do we think about this better? How do we get all these people together so that we can think about it as a group? And then you line that up idea to the journeys, and the next thing you know, you've got a delivery pathway. It's pretty cool. And that's what we're kind of here to talk about today. The Spark customer experience is the process that aligns ideas to journeys, and the journeys line up everything else. What's magic about it is if you do it. How hard is it to get all the right people into the room for the amount of time needed in order to solve a problem? It's hard. It's hard getting people into the room to have a conversation. That's why there's no magic to this. The magic is if you do it. But once you get them into the room, you better have a plan, because those people are out for blood. They're like, I've given up 5 lunches and like all me emails to be here. What are we going to do? And that's where we come in, right? We come in with a logical series of activities and tools and templates that helps people have conversations in the right order to get faster to outcomes. Not outputs, outcomes. And that's the magic of the CX framework, is it sets up those tools and those templates and those conversations to be had at the right points so that you can move really quickly and have better conversations. Our customer journeys create that common ground. They tell you who are the people that you have to have in, who's handling the technology stack for that journey, who's making sure that the data is getting counted in that space, who's making sure that the channels that we want to talk about are in the room. The journeys are an excellent way of figuring out who needs to be there to answer which questions. So we have a journey map, and this is what we use in order to answer the call of a lot of questions that come out of the CX framework. And in terms of changing cultural change, this is one of those ways that you can embed that change towards customer. Because again, you're taking all that information, getting it out of everyone's heads and out of the ether and slapping it on a wall. The story that we want to talk about today, though, is how that hasn't really done so much for us, to be quite honest. When we start with a CX framework, when we're really lucky, you get to start at the discover phase. Very few projects start here. Most projects start at the deliver phase. If you're lucky, you get to discover, which is where you get to empathize to understand the customer problem. This is where your classic journey map is awesome. And I got to tell you, if you're working with partners, it's such a great way to come up with co-solutions. So if you're ever working with your sales teams, customer journey maps are great ways to do it. However, when Spark was transitioning over to Agile, we had a bigger problem. All of a sudden, we had groups that normally had left the doing to a whole lot of other people, suddenly responsible for an end-to-end delivery of products they'd never seen before. All of a sudden, we had squads and teams who were solely responsible for producing for customers inside of areas that they weren't familiar with. Sudden realization that our thinkers and our doers were miles apart. And we had 3 days and 2 weeks to figure out how to bring it all together. We use journey mapping in order to solve a very specific business problem, which is how do you find out what is now in your scope? On your table is something that we've called CX Twister. A lot less fun than the original game, but a lot more sober.
What do you think the biggest challenge is for people working with this format?
It's the only thing, like how do they understand the steps and how do they tie into the bigger journeys? Yeah.
So linking that back, the technical with the strategic?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So it's understanding the steps and how that playing in like a role in their journey. It's big learning.
Yeah.
I used to say the examples of countdown. I'm going to browse the grocery, then I put everything into my cart, then I pay and come out, right? Whether I am in online or offline, I'm doing the same steps.
Yes, right.
Right? No matter what channel you are doing the same steps. So think about the journey as a whole. Then only thing is changes, the task will changes underneath.
Yeah.
And how we can move customer from one step to another step.
Yeah.
So if it is a digital, it will be a different solution. If it's an offline, it will be a different solution. But the steps won't change, right?
There's a big complex journey existing in a Spark corporate. So how to solve this problem and how to help business to make the right decision every time.
Yeah.
How we bring the simplified journey, how we crack down to bring the right solution for the customer. In order what we achieve is actually the same. The customer experience and user experience is the same.
Yeah.
So it depends on how you actually treat the person, right? So we can treat the person as a customer, we can treat it as a user.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the user is customer and customer user.
That's true.
So that's my point of view. So if you look at those steps, it's a channel agnostic. The reason we want to bring the channel agnostic journey, we want to, sometimes we need to migrate something online to offline, offline to online. The customers still interact with the multiple different touch points. So if I only, as a user experience, if I only think about the online experience, we never achieve the consistency across the So that's a very challenge. So we don't want to be isolated only online space.
Yes.
So that's what I'm trying to say. The customer experience and user experience has to be the same.
Yeah.
In order to bring the right solution for customers.
Yes.
It's good. I really enjoyed just being able to easily think about matching these things. I think it's so much easier than just starting with a blank slate. Quite often with journey maps, it's you get this blank kind of template. You think, oh gosh, where do I start? I think having these kind of things that sort of foster that thinking. You're thinking, oh, how does this fit in? Does it fit in? It's a bit of a step. I quite liked that. Yeah.
What do you think?
What did I think? I think it's a good way to prompt ideas. It's
a bit of a gamifying thing, isn't it?
Things that you would usually forget when you don't have these reminders. It just reminds you to not forget things like assure and validate, and you've got everything there in one place.
The first one is that this is a great way to help us get buy-in, because everyone we spoke to around the place is having trouble getting buy-in from management levels or technology architects, so this is a great way to get buy-in. Secondly, the limits that you have actually help improve it, so the time limits and the number of steps limits, and the framework made it seem like anyone could do it.
Yay! Good job, guys.
Something that we spoke about was co-creation and co-design. Just this exercise itself, doing it in a group, makes a world of a difference.
That's cool.
Collaboration and co-creation. One of the things we struggled with was metrics and how you actually figure out measurements for how many friends you've made as a result of buying treats. It seems a bit venal. So I think I'd like to understand a lot more about how to come up with some really good measurements so that we can get that buy-in and demonstrate that we're not the hugs department, we're actually the people who make you goddamn money department.
We think we missed an early validation step. So we made some assumptions, and we think we knew we got some understanding. We thought we knew what our customers might like, and then we went into delivering without getting some sort of early feedback, sort of validation.
So I want to say thank you so much. This was the first iteration of CX Twister. There's a second version, imminently. Look, again, there's very key purposes for this, which is to slow down our jump to solution, right? We jump to solution so fast. And we're convinced that solution is correct. Oh my God, it's so true, I know it is. How do you know? I know! Besides, I've already implemented it. But even if that happens, right, because this is reality, this is how it works. We now have some sort of idea of measures. We're saying, okay, well the thing that you're doing is supposed to achieve this, and we're going to know it's successful because it does this. So when your thing launches in a week, we're going to make sure that it does. Let your users do that work for you, right? Now you've got something to actually say, hey, this thing worked, or more importantly, this thing didn't. So I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I want to thank you on behalf of Spark. I want to thank Spark for hosting this incredible, crazy experience. And I want to say thank you for giving me so much of your time, energy, and joy this morning. So Becky, Dan,
Final thoughts, you two?
Final thoughts.
Final thoughts.
Well, for 7 in the morning, that was some energy, I gotta tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of people taking notes, taking photos, really trying to understand how they can apply this framework back into their own context. I think it was a really rapid sort of learning session, trying to figure out the nuts and bolts of it. But if we can start understanding how this can apply across practice, across industry, for us to set practice standards around stakeholder engagement, around mapping journeys, around evaluating and utilising journeys to create better outcomes for our organisations and our customers, we're onto something.
Yeah. Complexity is something that businesses deal with all the time, and part of what customer experience people have to do is cut through that noise and cut through that complexity. The only way we solve these problems for customers is by working together. So we need things that help us figure out how to start working together. Sometimes it just takes breaking it down, so you don't have to think about the breaking down. This game and this tool is what's really good at helping us slow ourselves down a little bit so that we can have really deep conversations before moving on to something else. I thought it was great. Thank you so much.